Hi everyone! This is my English 111 Writing e-Portfolio, and this is a website I've created to showcase the lessons I've learned during the course of the semester in this class. It had been about 10 years since I've taken an English class, and in that time I haven't written an academic paper. I started to feel very intimidated by the idea of writing academic papers, and I felt really insecure about my own writing. And our first paper that we worked on in this class, we were asked to explicate Freire's The Banking Concept of Education. I titled this paper, Don't Bank on It. For this paper, since it's been such a long time since I've taken an English class and written a paper, I wanted to focus on the parts of the paper. I thought that if I had incorporated all the parts on the paper that we learned in the refresher course, thank goodness for those, I could be successful in writing this paper. I had a really hard time with this paper. I put a lot of thought into it, and looking back on it, I think I did a pretty good job. But when I handed it in, I really did not know what grade I was going to get. I was very concerned about this paper. Focusing on the parts of the paper, I wanted to set up my paper in my introduction. I wanted to highlight all the ideas I'd be talking about in the body paragraphs within this introduction. And I do that by saying that Freire provides a harsh critique of depository education, how he suggests that narration-based learning dehumanizes and limits students, how he outlines the potential hazards of this method and the negative intentions of those that use this method of teaching. And I also bring up his problem-posing method. These will all be body paragraphs in this paper. And looking back on this, I think I did a really good job setting this paper up. It actually outlined my whole paper and made my paper easier to write. Another thing I really wanted to focus on was transitions. I don't ever remember focusing so much on transitions as I did in this class. Like, for some reason, I don't remember working on these. And they were very important to me. I really wanted my paper to flow properly. So here's an example. For Freire, creativity and inquiry are essential to how humans interact with the world, and he believes that narration-based learning, at times purposefully, excludes these characteristics. And then in my next paragraph, I go on and I talk about how Freire believes that the banking concept mimics the conventions of an oppressive society and all the negative things he has to say about that. And I really thought that that transition did a good job of leading up to this paragraph. Even though I felt like I struggled with this paper, when I got my feedback back, it was positive, and that led me to believe that I was on the right path in my writing, that I could start trusting myself, and that if I just really focused on the lessons that we were learning in this class, I would be able to write successful papers. For the second paper I wanted to share with you, it's the AMS, my first attempt at the AMS. I titled this paper Phoning It In. And in this paper, I really wanted to focus on my synthesis. I felt like I had the parts of the paper down, but the synthesis was kind of one of the key things they were looking for in this paper. And I had trouble with it. I decided to write about the trouble students face when they carry their cell phones with them to class. They're on it while they work on homework or while they should be studying, and how that could affect their learning in the long run. So for my synthesis, I really thought I could do a good job relating Crawford and Leamson. And my mistake here was, instead of getting my authors in a complex dialogue with one another, I just basically highlighted their ideas that were similar to each other. Let me find an example. Okay. Leamson explains, students find it takes little effort to run through well-established brain circuits, but enormous efforts, even momentary discomfort, to fire up previously used regions of the brain and work through those synapses until they stabilize. He goes on to add, learning new things, in short, is strenuous. Students will avoid it if they can. And I do a little analysis about this quote and how it leads to more brain stimulation when students are using their phones to avoid learning complex material. And I relate this to Crawford's suggesting self-regulation, like attention, is a resource of which we have a finite amount. And then I say it takes a great deal of self-control to redirect one's attention. I'm not really getting that dialogue in there. I'm just using their ideas with my own ideas, not connecting the two authors. And my gut feeling was that this paper would not be successful in the final AMS reading. I just could not relate my authors together properly, and it was really easy to lose focus in this paper. So I trusted my gut instinct and I went a different route. My AMS final was about students applying the knowledge they learn in the classroom and what the goal of adult education really is. In this paper, again, the synthesis, I was driven by that key idea. And I think in my first attempt of this paper, I focused a little too much on what my authors had to say and how they could agree. After my first reading of this paper, I got a lot of feedback, and the feedback said that I needed to work on my analysis and that my voice wasn't coming through. And I think if I would have gotten that feedback in the beginning of this course, it would have crushed me and I would have felt really lost. But during the course of the semester, I've learned that feedback is a really helpful tool and it can just make your writing better, and you should listen to it and incorporate it in your writing. So I needed to work on my analysis and I needed to let my voice shine through. So I did that by adding little passages here or there that I felt made my voice stronger, like this. College freshmen have a particularly difficult time grasping the importance of what they are learning in context to how it will benefit them in their everyday lives. Unfortunately, for some students, in college is the first time they are challenged to see the real-life significance of what they're being taught in class. Education for these students took place in stuffy classrooms and in dusty textbooks. Students learned what they were expected to, but when the bell rang, they closed their books and compartmentalized the lessons they were taught in school and the information they felt was important to their own life. So yeah, I just added little bits like that I felt strengthened my paper. I even handed a copy of this into the Writing Center, and it sounds silly, but I feel like that was pretty brave of me. In the past, I have not really looked forward to getting negative feedback about my papers. I've been very private. I didn't really want to show them to people unless I thought they were good, and I knew this paper had its problems, and I sent a faulty paper into the Writing Center for feedback, and it was actually really helpful. And I'm proud of myself for even doing that. I know that sounds silly, but it just showed me how much I've grown this semester in taking feedback and having confidence in myself and revising and writing a paper. I've really come a long way. And I've learned that through the course of this class, if you just listen to the lessons, if you participate in the forums, and listen to that feedback, you will be successful in this class. And your writing will show where you lack confidence. So it's best to know what you're writing about and know that you've applied the lessons you've learned, and it just really has made me a stronger writer, and I hope to take what I've learned in this class to the rest of my education. Thank you so much.